Data is critical to savings because without data, you don't know what you're spending, who you're spending with, what you're spending on, and sometimes even why you're spending the money. Just knowing that you are spending with a supplier isn't enough. Are you spending $100,000? Are you spending $10 million? In order to make good sourcing and procurement decisions, you need to know who you're spending with, what you're spending on, some idea of why you're spending that money, and what other opportunities there are for spending that money. How much data do you need? You need as much data as you can get. When it comes to data, typically you never have enough. Most organizations believe that they have enough data in their spend analysis system, or their ERP, or their accounts payable system, or their procurement system. The answer is that in any given system, you only have enough data to give you a partial view of the organization that the system was meant to support. If you want to find opportunities for savings, if you want to find opportunities for process improvement, if you want to find opportunities for doing business a new way, you need to get the data in all of the systems in your organization and bring it together to get a coherent view. Until you get a full coherent view of your spending, and until you have the data to support that full coherent view, you don't know what you're spending and you don't know what all of your opportunities for savings are. How do you go about getting all this data? Is you get a system that focuses on the collection and integration of data. Typically, there are two systems that support this. There are master data management systems, which used developed middleware over the last 5 or 10 years to pull together the data in all of the typical organizational systems, the ERP, the accounts payable system, the sourcing or procurement systems, any vendor master systems you have in-house, and so on, into a central repository. And then you're capable of running reports, usually using OLAP technology, on that repository. And that way works, but when you use this methodology, it typically takes a few months to get all that data, and you're running analysis on data that's somewhere between 1/4 and 1 year old. It works, but it's not as fresh as you would like to answer questions about, am I spending the right amount of money today? It can only tell you if you spent the right amount of money last quarter or last year. The second way is to get a modern search-based catalog or inventory search management system, like the type of system offered by Vinemeyer, which will connect all of your data sources together and allow you to search when you're looking for a product or service, what you have in-house, what your suppliers have, and what's available third-party on the market. By bringing all this data together, you can see what you're buying, who can provide that product or service, and how their prices compare against market averages in the public sector and the private sector. It's extremely important because without third-party data, all you're able to measure is how well you did this year versus last year. Just because you did better this year than last year doesn't mean that you're doing well compared against the market, nor does it mean that you've exercised all of the opportunities available to you. It could be that not only are you doing well against the market, but that you are doing well compared to your peers, which would mean that you stay the course, but it could be that you're doing well against last year because last year was the first year you implemented the contract, but you didn't realize that the market trend was pricing was going down, you didn't negotiate aggressively enough, and now against the market, you're paying 3% or 5% more than the average contracted price in the public sector because you didn't basically anticipate the market, which you could have done with more third-party data and more market data. The future of savings is going to rely on more intuitive and more advanced and more creative ways of analyzing data, both within and without of the organization. You have to look at the data you have and the data that's available. Look where there are discrepancies between your spend and market spend, and then find additional data sources that will give you insight into finding even greater sources of savings. Once you've done the initial analysis of what you're spending against the market and determined whether or not you're doing good or bad, depending upon not only your price versus market price, but the value-added services you're getting, or the other qualities of the contracts you signed, you have to dig deeper and try to understand why the market price is what it is. Why is a certain product or service high? For example, let's say you're buying a transformer, which is a typical staple of the power management and power generation industry. If its cost is going up, is it because the price of steel is going up? Is it because the price of labor is going up? Or is it because no one's monitoring the price of steel and labor and doesn't realize that steel happens to be going down at the moment because of the relative supply and demand imbalance, and the labor costs are becoming cheaper as the process of building these becomes more common and they become more commodity, and no one bothered to look and analyze if the supplier could produce the product cheaper and work with the supplier to help them produce the product cheaper. Savings isn't just paying the best price you can pay, it's also identifying opportunities to collaborate with your suppliers and your partners to help them reduce their costs and reduce your future costs. And that's something you can only do if you have enough data and the ability to dive into that data and creatively analyze it in more progressively sophisticated ways.